remote viewing, crop circles, and related.
Hey, George, thanks a lot for having me back again.
But not something you'd research.
If I'm not mistaken, that they're started to build up.
On the topic of creatures, monsters, cryptids, things that shouldn't exist but seemingly do, seen and reported all over the world for centuries, things like Sasquatch, dogmen, werewolves, Mothman. Are they something more than folklore and legend? How can they possibly be real? Dr. Simeon Hein is the director of the nonprofit Institute for Resonance in Boulder, Colorado. That institute is devoted to the study of subtle energy sciences, including remote viewing, crop circles, and related subjects. Dr. Hein has a Ph.D. in sociology. He taught research methodology at Washington State University, first learned remote viewing back in 1996, and then subsequently became involved in crop circle research. He travels in interesting circles, I can tell you, and is a colleague of names that we know well here, physicists and others on the cutting edge of science and UFO research. His new book is Dark Matter Monsters. Simeon, great to have you here.
Yeah, hey, George, thanks a lot for having me back again.
We'll start with this. I mean, you say in this book, you've looked at crop circles and UFOs, and as I said, you're colleagues with a lot of well-known names in these kinds of fields. But you're a relative newcomer to sort of cryptid creatures, right?
No, absolutely. It's a topic I didn't know very much about before just a few years ago.
And you would not have given it a second thought? I mean, other than it's folklore, that's kind of interesting, but not something you'd research.
Well, like a lot of listeners to this show, I used to listen to Lauren Coleman when he was being interviewed by Art Bell years ago, right? And I just had in my mind, it was kind of set that at least Bigfoot, and I didn't know about any other creatures back then, that Bigfoot was some sort of undiscovered bipedal primate that was confined to the Northwest. And I think Lauren had said back in the late 90s, if I'm not mistaken, that there were maybe a few thousand of them or 1,500, I forget the exact number. And it was something I had seen the Patterson Gimlin footage before one of the movies I saw as a teenager back in the 70s. And I think because I had believed that this just was some sort of undiscovered ape, that there wasn't much to it in terms of the subjects that I was used to, remote viewing and other phenomena that seemed sort of transcendental or related to quantum mechanics or something like that. So it wasn't until recently that I really started looking at it. And I'd have to say, George, I encountered many witnesses since about the year 2000 in the Boulder area, people in Colorado that took my remote viewing classes. And these cases started to build up. I mean, I heard more and more from these people, but it wasn't until a few years ago that it finally clicked about what could be going on with this subject, and I saw it was just much bigger than I thought it was.
The U.S. government was secretly investigating what you'd call paranormal phenomena, along with UFOs.
Right. Your book with James Lukatsky and Colin Keller, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, I mean, that really kind of blew it open for me. You could see the connections between these topics just talking to the witnesses and reading witness accounts. But in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, your colleagues document that it was the folks at DHS and other places that felt like it would really have negative effects on their organization to be associated with the types of topics associated with Skinwalker Ranch, the types of phenomena. And if that's correct, what Lukatsky says in the book, that they said, we don't want anything more to do with it, which isn't surprising, but this is what we've been going through since Roswell, isn't it?
Yeah. You write about the word paranormal, which is how these kinds of creatures have always been categorized. It's paranormal, which sort of just puts it in a box and shoves it off to the side. Yeah, quaint legend. Let's move on. But you have a framework of an idea that maybe paranormal isn't the right word to describe these things.
Paranormal just means it's next to what we consider normal, and that is basically up to social definition. Social definition, thankfully, changes every few decades or so. And I'm sure it's going to happen with these topics also. You just have to go back in history and look what we consider to be supernatural, quote unquote, paranormal. And it's ordinary things that we're used to now, like electricity and magnetism and even, physical vacuums inside bottles and things like that, that were really considered strange many centuries ago. It really has to do more with our mindset than the phenomena themselves.
You're talking about life forms, as you write, life forms based on non-ordinary states of matter that science has yet to fully recognize. Draw that out a little bit. Explain us what you mean.
Right. Well, if you start looking at the witness encounters, and certainly what you mentioned in Hunt for the Skinwalker, and then Lukatsky and the rest of you continued in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, we're not just talking about some encounters with flesh and blood creatures. It's not what the witnesses report. Even your witnesses from Defense Intelligence Agency, which Lukatsky goes into great detail about what they experienced at Skinwalker Ridge. There are these same phenomena showing up again and again, including orbs and sort of strange space-time sensations and feelings of fear, and sort of seeing these creatures apparently defying gravity, winking in and out, appearing there one moment, then the next moment they're gone, and even having telepathic communications with you inside your head, which a lot of people have experienced, especially around Bigfoot. And that, to me, just suggests, since that is so similar to the other phenomena that we associate with the paranormal, that we're dealing with the same underlying phenomena here, and it has to do with another state of matter that we're not all that familiar with, but I would have to say I think goes back to the research and the work of Bose and Einstein in 1924 when they came up with the Bose-Einstein condensate, which wasn't discovered until 1995, shown to be real right here in Boulder, Colorado, just a few miles from where I am. So, it takes a while for these scientific discoveries to be accepted, to find the data to show that they're real. And then we look, hey, where else do they show up in our lives? I think we show this kind of coherent matter, as it's known, not just in Bose-Einstein condensates, which only appear, near absolute zero, but in ordinary settings, ordinary temperatures, and situations that we encounter day to day. And that type of matter, it doesn't behave like matter we're normally used to. It has these very strange